Thanks for tuning in once again to Proline TV, the Jim Feist Handicapping Show, as we talk more March Madness. And we can't get enough. The big week ahead begins tonight in the first four in Dayton, Ohio. And we're going to make sure that we bring you as many experts as possible this week, as many different opinions that you can choose from. And that's why we're going to have another guest on this week's show, Jim. Of course, I'll introduce Jim Feist, host of the show. How's it going, Jim?
Yeah, very good. I want to tell everybody that this is the Dom DeMarco show that we usually do on location at the Dom DeMarco restaurant. Best pizza, best Italian food. Albert Scali at the host, great staff. 9785 West Charleston. And we'll be back in the restaurant in August when the NFL starts up again. I want to thank Matt Youmans for taking time out today, because I know he's one of the busiest guys in the world, especially when this kind of stuff's going on every day. Matt, welcome aboard. Thank you.
Greg, Jim, it's great to be on the show. I wish we were at Dom DeMarco's. I've got no food in my house, so I could use some pizza for lunch. It sounds good.
Hey, man, I've never had a bad meal there. I say to my wife, let's get a pizza. She said, no, we've had pizza the last 4 days. Well, this is a very busy time of the year. We got baseball in a few days. We've got hockey. We've got golf. We got everything. And Bat, you cover everything. So that's incredible. But right now, we've got it today. We got the first four in, or battling to get in: Howard, Maryland, Baltimore, NC State, Texas. We've got another 4 games tomorrow, 4 teams tomorrow. And we also have the NIT. Now, this year we don't have the CBI. I understand they didn't do it this year. I guess that's financial reasons or something. But Matt, what do you think about all this, how the world of basketball is changing and how it affects our betting mode? Because that's who we are. We're fans, but we're mostly bettors. And Matt works with VSiN, Vegas Sports Information Network. Great site, great people on that site. Matt has a lot to do with how that place runs and does a fantastic job. Matt, I'll throw it to you for now.
Yeah, college hoops is probably my favorite thing to bet. College football, college basketball, without a doubt. And then NFL would be third, but you got to love March Madness. Conference tournament week was outstanding. We had so many great games. It was a great betting week for me. Hopefully keep it up this week. But, Jim, as far as postseason tournaments go, college sports has changed so much, where you have unrestricted free agency, no salary cap. And what that's going to do, I think, is hurt all of these postseason tournaments outside of the NCAA tournament, because these teams are going to change so much when the regular season ends or the conference tournament ends. A lot of these players are not going to stick around. I was not sure if UNLV was going to be able to play in the NIT, but apparently all of UNLV's players said, hey, they wanted to play. So that's a good sign, because a couple of those guys I'm pretty sure are going to take the money and run. But I don't think it's a big deal as far as all that goes. You know, as a handicapper, as a bettor, you know that you just adapt with the changes and handicap the games that are in front of you. And we got a bunch of games in front of us, so let's start the handicapping.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you think about the first 4, Matt? I was actually a little bit surprised that when the lines first opened up. Even right now, I'm kind of surprised. I know Howard's had a nice run, but Maryland, Baltimore County looks like a much better team to me, and the line's only 1. And the same thing with Lehigh, but that line has moved up from wherever it was, 1.5 to 3.5. I was actually surprised it opened up so small. These are the hardest games sometimes to handicap, because we don't really get an opportunity to see any of these teams very much. So do you try to take advantage of these first 4 games, especially these obscure games like Prairie View, Lehigh, and Maryland, Baltimore County, and Howard?
Not necessarily, because I like to watch as many games as possible. I go through the box scores. I do all the I look at Bart Torvik and Kim Palm and all the analytics sites. I do all that too. But also, I think where you get the edge as a handicapper a lot of times is to be able to see the teams and evaluate the talent. And I haven't seen these teams play. So it's hard for me to. I look at the number, and I slightly favor UMBC in this game, but I have not seen these two teams play. So I can't sit here and give you a thorough analysis on both teams and tell you that without a doubt this is a side you should bet. So those type of games on my radar, but definitely below the radar in terms of I like to know the personnel of what I'm betting on. I know everybody's different. I know some people don't watch games at all. I don't know how you do that. But there'll be people who are just strictly numbers guys who don't watch games. I try to do both, dig as much into the numbers as possible, but I also want to see the teams. I want to know what I'm betting. I want to evaluate the players, the coaches. And with those games, I don't know much about those teams. I know just as much as you do or anybody else does who also has not seen those teams. I think we're guessing a little bit more at those type of games.
The NC State-Texas game, of course, we do know those teams, and we have, in most cases, we've seen those type teams play. Back in the day when we all started, we're a little bit older, there was no way to see any of these teams because there was hardly anybody on television. Yeah. And, now we have the benefit of being able to pick them up on different shows and stuff. And in the old days, it was hard to get anything. You'd have to steal newspapers from different towns to get any idea who the hell was playing. We used to battle over the papers that would come in on the planes at night here in Las Vegas to see who could get a porter to get you the papers, because a lot of people were trying to get the same papers, and it became a bidding war. I'll give you $50, and another guy, I'll give him $100. I mean, it was hard to get the damn papers.
That's an expensive newspaper, Jim. But I guess if it gets you delivers winning information, it's worth it. But man, did you really pay $100, $50, or $100 for a newspaper?
Well, we get newspapers from all over the place because they service every plane. So, it was more than just one plane. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Because there was one guy, and I won't mention his name. He has a lot of money. He's been very successful. He used to pay a lot of money, and in a couple spots I had to outbid him. You know who it is. I know who it is. Everybody knows who it is, but I'm not going to mention his name.
Okay.
Matt, we went over some of these historical trends on the tournament preview show we did last night. You can catch that, of course, right here on Proline TV. We went over the 14-year history of the first four, where 13 teams have advanced to the second round. So what that tells you is that at least for the history of the first four, it's pretty commonplace to see at least one team win 2 games in the tournament. Do you have a favorite there? If you had to pick one of those teams to win 2 games out of the first 4?
All right. So in the Texas NC State game, I think I lean a little bit to Texas, but this is not a strong play for me. But I will say that whoever wins between the Longhorns and Wolfpack is going to have a great shot to beat BYU in that 6-11 game because it's pretty obvious. You've watched BYU late in the season after Richie Saunders' injury. It's not the same team. And the Cougars were leaking oil down the stretch. They have the number 1 scorer in the country in A.J. DeBansa, the freshman, averaging 25 points a game. Robert Wright's another he's a great number 2 complimentary scorer. But Richie Saunders was a good defender, shot maker, perimeter shooter. They lost a lot when they lost him. So whoever wins NC State Texas, I think, has an outstanding shot to knock off BYU and win 2 games like you're talking about there.
What do you feel about the whole Miami thing? First, were you in on the fact before the MAC tournament that no matter what they did, they deserve to be in the tournament in the NCAA?
Not at all. Because Miami's strength of schedule is one of the weakest in college basketball, and I don't believe the BS that Travis Steele, the coach, said about, we tried to contact all these teams and get a game and nobody would play us. I'm not going to buy that. I think a lot of naive people in the media buy that stuff. Look, Purdue played Akron and Kent State. I think Michigan State played Toledo. There are plenty of Big Ten teams who will play MAC teams. So the Big Ten teams are not afraid to play Miami of Ohio. So I think that was his weak way of trying to make excuses for the Red Hawks schedule. So I'm not going to buy that like a lot of other people did. Now you have to give Miami full credit for going 31-0. That's great. They won each of their final 3 games by exactly 2 points. They were obviously feeling the pressure down the stretch. I said Miami's got to win at least one MAC tournament game, I think, to guarantee it's going to be in the field. And what happened? Miami lost its first MAC tournament game. So if the Red Hawks got left out of this thing, I was not going to complain or cry about it because, you know, when the pressure's on in the tournament, you got to be able to beat one MAC opponent. And if you can't do that, I'm not going to lobby on your behalf. So I think Miami was lucky to get in the field. And Greg, when you look at it, SMU probably should not be in the 68-team field.
I don't think they should at all.
Right. SMU's 1-5 in the last 6 games, right? 1-5 in the last 6. I think it was a 10 or 11 seed in the ACC tournament. But SMU opened an 8.5-point favorite over Miami. That tells you Miami probably should not be in the field, right?
You would think so.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too is SMU is 1-7 since January 3rd. They beat North Carolina. They're 1-7 versus tourney teams since that win over North Carolina. And that includes a few games with BJ Edwards, which I thought was just the worst explanation of why SMU deserved to be in the tournament by the commissioner when he said, well, they're getting their injured player back. I mean,
yeah, I don't like that either. I agree with you. I thought that was really lame. And I think we're on the same page with this argument because when a team loses that many games down the stretch, you can't just make the excuse, well, they had a player out. There's so many teams that could say that. I favored it when the committee used to put more emphasis on your final 10 or 12 games and how you finish the season. And if you look at it that way, how is Oklahoma not in the field ahead of SMU?
Yes. Yeah. That's incredible. Actually incredible. Now, Matt, this game opened 8.5 in some spots. I grabbed the 8.5, and I also grabbed the 8. Now, I don't know what the hell I'm doing because I don't know why SMU's there. I don't know if the players come back or have any effect. But I got to give Miami some credit. I mean, 8.5 is too much. Well, I grabbed it. They have a terrible strength of schedule, but damn, like you said, SMU's been terrible.
Yeah, I was doing a bracket show at Circa on Sunday night. I had about 100 things going on. I thought that number was too high. And by the time I got on the app to bet it after the show, I got 8. I missed the 8.5, but I have Miami plus 8 here too. I thought I made the number right around 3.5. Now, I might be giving Miami a little bit too much credit here, but Red Hawks are playing in their backyard. They're going to have full support of the crowd. I think the pressure is off them a little bit because they finally lost a game. They're in the tournament. I don't think they're playing with the same pressure they were at the end of the regular season or in that first tournament game. They can play loose tonight. Hey, they got this is a team with several scorers. And they shoot, as a team, 39% from 3, 75% from the free throw line. And I don't see any reason Miami can't hang in this game. Now, SMU's got really good guards, including Boopy Miller. But Miami, I think, should have a great shot to win this game. So you got 8.5, I got 8, and we'll roll with the Red Hawks.
Yes.
Yeah, another team that struggled down the stretch was Central Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, what got them in was they had a couple of those big wins over quality teams, but just watching them over and over again in the final few weeks of the season, going up against teams that did not go to the tournament in big games that should have been, hey, you need to win this game. You're a bubble team. It's almost like they acted in a way like, no, we're not. Everybody says we're in. We don't really need this game because they sort of played like it. And this is another team that I don't even know if, again, I think if you look at it as a whole, we've talked about this for the past month or so, is I think that if you look at the last 10 or 15 teams that got into the tournament this year are as bad of the last 10 or 15 teams to be in any NCAA tournament that I've ever recalled. seeing teams repeatedly lose critical games in the last couple of weeks of the season when they're supposed to need the game to get to the tournament. Teams like SMU, teams like Central Florida, Auburn, we can go down the line with all these losses from these teams that needed these wins. And Central Florida's taking on a UCLA team that's really hot right now. And there are some people who think UCLA could actually make a move in this tournament. So what do you think about that matchup?
Well, UCF did have one really strong performance, and I remember the night vividly because it was in February. I bet UCF plus 11.5, I think, at BYU, and that number got steamed all the way up to 14.5 at game time. Greg, Jim, do you guys remember this game?
I remember it, yes.
All right, so I was doing a show at Circuit that night, and I said, what's going on with all this BYU steam? I've got 11.5 with UCF. I must be on the wrong side. Somebody knows something I don't know. And then that number just took off in the last hour before the game. There was no injury information, nothing like that. So I said, well, sometimes you get stuck with a bad number. Maybe I'm on the wrong side. And UCF led that game by 20 in the first half and by 35 in the second half.
Yeah.
Where did the BYU steam come from that night? I still can't figure that out. That must have been a couple of groups that were just pounding it and a bunch of people followed. I have no idea.
Maybe a BYU alum might have been.
I don't know, man. I heard it was a couple of sharp groups because I had to look into that because it just didn't make sense. Hell, UCF was up by 35 in the second half. BYU got steamed up to a 14.5-point favorite. So UCF is capable of playing pretty well. UCLA's issue here is the Bruins have not played well when they have to leave the West Coast. And Mick Cronin, their coach, constantly complains about the travel, and now he's got to go to Philadelphia for this game. The one thing about UCLA, I like their personnel, offensively especially. And they're going to get Donovan Dent, their point guard, and Tyler Bilodeau, who's an outstanding shooter, especially from the wings. Bilodeau, I would say, is their second-best player. They're going to get those guys back healthy for this game against UCF. So I think on the surface, you would like UCLA here say, well, they're healthy. They've been playing well. Cronin got that thing turned around late in the season. But UCLA is not very good on the defensive end of the floor, so they're going to have to outscore UCF or be better, more efficient on the offensive end. I'm not laying the points here. I don't play many favorites at all. I didn't play many favorites last week. I think I played 2, maybe the entire week. Conference tournament week. I'm only going to play a couple, 2 or 3 this week. I'm not going to lay the points with UCLA. If anything, I would take it with UCF, but I have not bet that game.
I have bet Central Florida. I did take the points in this one. I guess maybe we'll see how lame that bet is.
No, I mean, if I were going to bet it, I would take UCF, and I think there's a 6. I saw
there is one right now.
Yeah.
Let me see where that is. It's Fanatics. Fanatics is a 6.
I think Westgate Superbook had it yesterday in Vegas, but 5.5 or 6 would be the only side I could play. Would be the dog there.
Yeah,
Right.
Central Florida is one of a lot of teams we'll see in the tournament that they just have to have the 3 go down, and if they're shooting well from 3, they're going to be tough to beat. If they get up to a sluggish start from the outside, then they're in trouble. And if anything, I'm not a total guy, but I would think this game could go over. It's 152. And as you mentioned, neither team really plays a whole lot of defense, especially Central Florida.
Right.
So, but again, it all depends on a Central Florida. See, if I was going to pick Central Florida, I'd probably go with the over because that would mean that Central Florida's probably got their 3 working. So I think it would be a high scoring game in that effect.
It's interesting. The game opened 154.5 and now 152. And I see Superbook has got a 151.5 right now. So it's interesting. It's down 3 points.
There are a lot of people who like to bet unders in NCAA tournament first round games because they think the unfamiliarity of the arenas and the rims and the pressure of playing in the tournament. I know there's a lot of people some people just blindly bet the unders. Huh. I don't play a lot of totals in these games. I feel like totals are a little bit more random in these tournament games. First of all, you're going to have – you never know at the end of the game in the last 2 minutes if you're going to have teams fouling until the bitter end, right? You could have 25 points scored in the last minute and a half of a game, or you could have 4 points scored in the last minute and a half of a game if it's close and they're not fouling. So to me, that's a little bit too random sometimes in these tournament games.
There were no top 4 seeds that lost in the first round last year.
Right.
If you had to pick one top 4 seed that you feel is the most vulnerable, who could that be? Who do you think has got? Who would you be the most nervous for as a top 4 seed?
Let's see. I would say Alabama or Nebraska, and I'm going to say Alabama because of a recent situation with Aiden Holloway.
Yep.
Holloway's he's averaging about 17 points a game. He's a top 3-point shooter by percentage at 44. Very valuable to that team. And not only that, it's a big distraction to Alabama when you lose a player like that on tournament week. Aiden Holloway, 17 points a game, 44% from 3. Playing a Hofstra team that won 24 games out of the Coastal. Speedy Claxton, the coach, is doing a great job with that team, but they could shoot 74% from the free throw line, 37% from 3. And I like Cruz Davis, their junior guard. I have seen this team play a few times, and Cruz Davis is a really talented guard. 20 points per game, hits 40% from 3. Hofstra won at Pitt and Syracuse in December, 11-1 in the last 12. They're going to try to slow the game down on Alabama. And I think Hofstra's got a shot to pull the upset there, especially with the Aiden Holloway situation. The other would be Nebraska, which is 0-9 all time in the NCAA tournament. I do believe the Cornhuskers are going to get the win here. But I also think they're probably going to have to sweat this game out. I played Troy plus 14. That was actually the first bet I made.
I did as well. I took 14.
Yeah, when I was driving into Circus Sunday, there was William Hill had 14. And, I'd still say take 13 and a half. You can't always get the best number. But this Troy team I watched probably 4 or 5 times this season. Trojans won at San Diego State in one of the wildest games you're ever going to see. Double overtime game, 108-107. This is in November. 2 days later, Trojans went to USC and played an even wilder game and lost to USC in triple overtime, 107-106.
Holy jeez.
Troy's 5-1 in the last 6 games, Sun Belt champs. Scott Cross is a really good coach. And, I watch a ton of Big Ten basketball. Nebraska was outstanding during its 20-0 start. But the Cornhuskers definitely faded down the stretch. They faded, and they faded fast, 6-6 in their last 12 games.
Yes.
And this number came out a lot higher than what I thought it was going to be. So, I don't know, Greg, if I got to pick a top 4 seed to lose, I'd say either Alabama or Nebraska.
Yeah, those are good ones. We talked about that on yesterday's show. Nebraska also coming off a 16-point loss in the tournament to Purdue, and throwing the fact that, because we talked about it, there has to be pressure on a group of kids that they have the weight of the university of the basketball program, never win a tournament game, and you're a heavy favorite to do it. So now you are expected to win that first. You have to do it. Everybody. I mean, even the guy on who was it on the CBS show that said, "I'm rooting for them." I know I'm not supposed to root for anybody, but I'm rooting for Nebraska. So there's gonna be a lot of and then you talk about this Troy team, even though they weren't like a big part of the rotation last year, when they won the championship last year and went to the tournament and got blown out by Kentucky in the first round, 6 of the players on that team returned. And that's unusual, as we know, to have that type of turnover and returning talent. Again, they weren't any top scorers, but still, just to be able to be a part of that team and to have some of that chemistry come back has to serve them well.
Yeah.
Well, they definitely won't be as nervous doing it a second time. It's so much easier. Matt, I personally, I'm not enamored with the Dogs like I used to be, because I think so many of the players have gone up to the top teams because of the money. But I do think there's some teams that are not really out of touch that could do some damage. Like I think I sent you some of the stuff that I did. VCU, Akron, Troy. We talked UCF, Santa Clara, Iowa State, South Florida. I think these teams can make some noise at least in the first round.
Yeah, South Florida is one I'm on too. I got South Florida plus 5.5 against Louisville. I like this Bulls team actually since they lost to Alabama in mid-December. South Florida is 19-3. 2 of the losses in overtime, and another loss by 1 point. And a team with an 11-game win streak. They're strong inside and out, 5 double-figure scores. And Louisville has not been very good away from home this season. I looked at the home road charts. Who's best away from home. Purdue is one of the best teams in college basketball away from home. Louisville is one of the worst. I thought South Florida plus 5.5 was worth a play there too.
Yeah, I was looking. I like to take a look at all the experts, CBS, ESPN. I just want to see if there's a consensus, especially on the double-digit seeds, the long shots. And I have to tell you, everybody's on South Florida. It's so amazing that it's for an 11 seed. It's like every single bracket I'm looking at South Florida, South Florida, South Florida, South Florida. And that kind of makes me nervous. Doesn't it make you nervous as a handicapper when everybody's on the same long shot? It's almost like they're an 11 seed. They're a 5-point dog to a 6 seed. Why does everybody want on them?
Well, you know what? I say that in the NFL all the time. You never want to be on the public dogs in the NFL. And I call them the hot dogs. I don't want to be on the hot dogs in the tournament. I'll tell you which dog I'm hearing the most this week. I heard it right after the selection show. I had guys text me, I love this dog. I've probably heard it from 5 or 10 different people. Akron. Everybody's on Akron. And that's why I have not bet Akron. I got it on my list, but I haven't played it because I think it's too hot of a dog.
Well, I'm on some of those hot dogs, I'll tell you. I've got some of them, and let's hope some of them can actually put a little mustard on them and actually win.
Yeah, for all the 12 seeds that normally get a lot of love, because, as Jim mentioned before, with the state of the game today, and again, as I mentioned, a lot of the teams that are barely getting into the tournament now are not anywhere as good as past. I do worry about the 12 seeds in this tournament. I'm just not really excited about them. I just, even this type of a matchup, we all understand, I think, why people are on Akron, and I get it, especially without Toppin at Texas Tech, and they lost 3 straight to end the season. It's just that when I look at these teams, I just say, man, Texas Tech is just so much more athletic and better that it's gonna take just a really bad game from Texas Tech. Especially, you have to think that they're motivated to play well with Toppin out and to show everybody that we can do something, sort of like what they did to close the season before the 3-game losing streak, when they did win a couple of big games without Toppin.
Yeah, Toppin is a first-team All-American, and if you lose a player like that, your ceiling is going to be a lot lower. Now, I will say that Grant McCaslin, their coach, is out. He's one of the best in the business. This is a really well-coached team.
Yep.
I've got a lot of respect for Grant McCaslin. You watch him; he's as good at X's and O's as anybody out there. And I reflect on actually Texas Tech, Akron's situation. To me, is a little bit similar to Wisconsin and High Point, because a year ago, if you guys remember, High Point was a hot dog. Everybody was picking High Point against Purdue. Everybody. And Purdue pounded High Point. And this year, I'm hearing everybody pick Akron. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas Tech pounds them. Grant McCaslin going to have his team well prepared for this game. I think where the Toppin injury is going to really hurt Tech is further down the road when they face opponents with more interior strength. Akron's more of a guard-oriented team, and they're going to fire a bunch of threes, and I think Tech's pretty good at defending the 3. Plus, Akron's off the – did you guys watch the Mid-American Conference Tournament Final?
Yes, I did. Yes.
What a wild finish in that game. It was so emotional for the Zips when they won it. They hit a 3 essentially at the buzzer to win the game, and it could be an emotional hangover for teams like that, coming off a big conference tournament win and celebrating. And Texas Tech got knocked out of the Big 12 tournament, and they've been focused and prepping for this game. So those are the type of things I look at too.
Yeah, that was actually watching the last 5 or 6 minutes of that game. Toledo actually had the lead and didn't relinquish it at all until the last shot.
Yep.
That's how close Akron came from not even being in the tournament.
Exactly.
When everybody was predicting them and they were the heavy favorite to win the tournament championship. I mean, the tournament when it began. So they came that close to not even getting there, which is, again, why I think it's a little unusual that everybody is on them. But I do understand it. So if you have to pick a 12 seed, again, I don't really have any 12s that I'm enamored with. Northern Iowa, McNeese, Akron, and High Point. Would you pick one out of those 12 seeds that you would, if you had to pick one, who would it be?
I'm not going to pick any of them.
Okay.
But I did bet one. I played Northern Iowa plus 11.
Okay.
And I've got St. John's in the Final Four in my bracket. I wanted to pick somebody to beat Duke. I just don't like. I'm not crazy about the way Duke's playing, and since they lost their point guard, they had Cameron Boozer bringing the ball up the floor against Virginia, and I didn't think Boozer was playing that great. And I'm not sure Duke's going to be able to survive an off game by Boozer if it gets that. And St. John's, I would say this: defense, rebounding, and toughness travel. You're going to have that. St. John's has all three of those things. 3-point shooting, you don't know if that's going to travel. You don't know if you're going to have it or not. And the Johnnies don't rely too much on the three. What's interesting about this Northern Iowa St. John's game, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be a grinder. Before the draw, I had circled Northern Iowa as a team that was going to be a bet-on team for me. But I'm also higher than most on St. John's. So the Panthers win the Missouri Valley. You look at this team, really well-coached team again. Tough. They played a slow pace. If you look at Ken Palm, Northern Iowa's 24th in defensive efficiency and numbers 363 out of 365 in tempo. So they defend, they play slow, and what do you want from an underdog that's trying to pull an upset? You want to reduce possessions and shorten the game. So I think St. John's is going to win this, but I also think it's going to be a sweat. So I took the 11 with Northern Iowa. But no, I don't see a 12 seed where I'm going to say, that's an upset pick. I think the 12 is going to beat the 5. Obviously, everyone's looking at High Point, thinking that Wisconsin's probably going to have some 3-point shooting regression off that Big Ten tournament. A lot of people talking about Akron. I don't like McNeese against Vandy, and I like Northern Iowa, but I want the points. I don't think they pull the upset.
This is this is the most exciting time. It's just absolutely awesome. So excited to be at this point. It's so much better than anything else that I know in sports. I love this time. Love it.
I mentioned the 12 seeds. The 11 seeds are even better, as they should be. It's an 11, not a 12. But the percentages are a lot higher for 11 seeds recently, beating the. Actually, if you take a look at what are they, the 11 seed prediction percentage.
6 against the 6, yeah.
Let's see, is 56%. 11 seeds have won 23 of the last 41 against 6 seeds.
Wow.
So, and that was 3-1 last year. No, 3-1 in 2024. So 11 seeds have actually been really good. Mm-hmm. Now we move up a seed. Are there any of these 11 seeds that you would go with the most? Of course, you mentioned South Florida, so that has to be one of them. VCU is another hot team that everybody seems to be on. And then we've got the Texas NC State winner and the Miami of Ohio SMU winner. So would it be VCU and USF? Because I think if I asked that question to 10 people, I think they 9 of them would say that.
I think VCU can win 2 games in a row. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think South Florida and VCU can definitely win 2 games in a row.
Yeah,
that means I'm jinxing them. You
know what? The 11. I give all the 11 seeds a pretty good shot to pull.
Yeah,
an upset. South Florida, we just talked about that one. VCU could definitely beat Carolina. I think this Tar Heels team is a little soft, and also without Caleb Wilson, who's probably a top 10 NBA draft pick, he's out for the season. I don't like this Carolina team without Caleb Wilson. And, if Miami of Ohio gets some momentum here, upsets SMU, Miami might have a shot to knock off Tennessee. I'm not going to predict that right now, but the winner of the Texas NC State game, we already talked about that too, could certainly take down BYU, right? So the 11 seeds, I think, have a great shot. Now,
you said St. John's in the East. Andy, by the way, Andy Isco has St. John's. He has St. John's winning it all, doesn't he, Jim?
Did he really?
Yeah, he took St. John's to win it all.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, St. John's over Michigan in the final. So Jim, by the way, we did Jim's bracket yesterday. So Jim went with 4 1 seeds, 3 2 seeds, and only one outlier, and that was South Florida, making all the way to the Elite Eight. So Jim went chalk except for South Florida, which is not a bad idea the way things went last year. You mentioned Duke, Matt. So what about the rest of your bracket? Have you released that yet?
Oh, yeah. I did the bracket last night. Let me look at it real quick. I've got St. John's, Houston, Arizona, and Michigan. I went with 2 number 1 seeds. I've got Arizona beating Purdue in the West Final, Michigan beating Iowa State in the Midwest Final, Houston over Florida, and St. John's over UConn. Those were my regional finals. And Houston, the runner-up for the second year in a row. To Michigan.
Oh, wow.
I've got Michigan winning the whole thing. Look, Big Ten has not won this thing since 2000. Obviously, everybody knows that. Tom Izzo, coach of Spartans. I was at that game in Indianapolis, actually. Big Ten is 0-8 in NCAA title games since then, the last time being Purdue losing to UConn a couple of years ago. I think the Big Ten's got some shots here, with obviously with Michigan, with Purdue, with Illinois. Some would say Michigan State. So I decided a couple weeks ago that Michigan was going to be my team to win it. And then they had the LJ Kaysen injury. The backup point guard went down. I think that definitely hurts the Wolverines. They have not been playing that well. They're certainly not peaking. You guys remember how well Michigan played early in the season when they beat San Diego State by 30?
They were killers.
By 40. Yeah, they won 3 consecutive games in Vegas by 30, 40, and 40 or something like that.
Gonzaga, Auburn.
Yeah. San Diego State, Gonzaga, Auburn. 3 days in a row, just destroyed all 3 teams. And really played, I would say, at a high level until the end of the Big Ten regular season. I think the season wore them down a little bit, and then they lost their backup point guard, who was a valuable part of the team. It's not, man, you think about it, 19-1 in the Big Ten, 10-0 on the road. That's pretty damn impressive.
Yes.
Yeah.
I decided to roll with the Wolverines. And even though I wrestled with that decision, because I think Arizona is a damn good team that can win it all too, but they're on the same half of the bracket with Michigan.
That's where I have Florida beating Arizona in the final.
Okay.
But I mean, the interesting part about this is there's maybe 8 teams at the end. It could, if they all get there, it's going to be, those games could be absolutely impossible to pick because they're going to be so damn matched well and aligned well. It's going to be hard to find the angles and get the positive EV and all that stuff we look for as bettors, because these teams are going to be so well known and the odds makers will know them just as well as we know them.
Well, I was going to throw this at you guys. Greg and Jim, you guys have been doing this for a long time. And I think people look more for the underdogs now than they ever did. In the last 5 or 10 years, been a lot more talk about, even the public's trying to bet underdogs in the first round. I think you were getting a lot more value with the dogs back in the day, right? When the numbers were not as tight. Now the numbers are tighter. You got Ken Palm, you got Torvik, you got all these analytics sites. I think the numbers are tighter. You're getting fewer points with the dogs because so many people are playing the dogs, right? As soon as the numbers come out Sunday night, you still see almost all the numbers on the dogs are dropping. At least some of the key dogs we're looking to bet, right? Like TCU. TCU, Ohio State. Horned Frogs open 4.5 at DraftKings. Within an hour, it's down to 2.5, right? So I don't think you're getting the extra points with the dogs that you used to get.
Definitely not the big dogs because, we talk about it all year long about the nil in the portal. It has to be taking away. I mean, this team has 20 million in their, bankroll to pay players, and this team has 800,000. I mean, eventually it's got to wear on you.
Yeah.
So your best valued play as far as a championship future sounds like to me would be St. John's. They're 75-1 to win the national championship, if you can believe that.
I can believe it. Actually, about a month ago at Circa, I bet St. John's at 90-1.
Did you think that was at the time when you took it? Didn't you think, oh, glad I got it 90-1 now because that'll be cut in half as long as they keep playing well?
Yeah, I did. And I'm surprised it's as high as it is now. But I also thought St. John's is going to be better than a 5 seed. I thought, a team that UConn is a 2 seed.
Yeah.
St. John's beat UConn 2 out of 3 times. St. John's gets a 5.
And they blew them out. Yeah, in the championship game.
Yeah. UConn looks horrible. I mean, I don't know, 5 of the last 6 games, they're so questionable. I mean, I think it's like 5 or 6. But, yeah, I don't understand that.
Well, it's based off early season results, right? Because UConn had better non-conference wins in November and December. And that's why I think the seeding process is wrong. I care more about, as a handicapper, that's fine. I care more about how teams are playing in February and early March than I do the wins they picked up in November. Look, Purdue beat Texas Tech. I was at the game in the Bahamas. Purdue beat Texas Tech by 30 in November. If Texas Tech were at full strength now, there's no way that would be a 30-point game. I don't think it means all that much. How teams play in November and December doesn't really matter to me, but the committee seeds them that way, right? If you look, St. John's had 5 key non-conference games, I think lost 4 of them. Yeah. A couple of them went down to the wire. So St. John's drops to the 5 line, and UConn's on the 2 line. But it doesn't make sense, but whatever. That's the committee's going to screw things up every year. I just think there should be more of an emphasis on how teams play late. I don't know how UConn can be a 2, and I don't have a problem with UConn being 2, but how can UConn be 2 and St. John's 5? And St. John's just won the Big East regular season and tournament and pounded UConn, and now has to go to San Diego to play.
It doesn't make sense.
Well, you hit it. UConn's got those big November wins,
right?
And St. John's has big November losses,
right?
Yeah, but
that's it. That's the only reason to think about it.
It's like in football. You can't pick the Super Bowl winner in September. You got to look at how they're doing in December and January with who's hot, who's healthy, et cetera, et cetera. You can't. It's crazy. I don't.
If you guys remember, I know you guys remember. Hey, the Raiders beat the Patriots on the road in Week 1. Nobody cared about that by the time we got to December, right?
You're right. You're right.
Well, the committee actually didn't have as big, in my mind, didn't have as big of a black eye as the college football committee did this season. And I think one of these years, and I think the word is these guys really should stop interviewing on these ESPN poll shows.
Oh yeah.
So early in the process, because it doesn't them absolutely no good. Because people remember what they say, and they make them pay for it later on. Because the whole Notre Dame thing was really, really a big black eye in my mind to the committee. But again, like you said, it happens every year in both college football and college basketball when they have these committees.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think they care as much about getting it right as they do about TV ratings. And that ESPN show is it's a dog and pony show, and they want TV ratings. And then it gives them something to talk about every week, right? It's the generates conversation. It keeps college football at the on all the talk shows, and that's why they think ESPN kind of orchestrates all that stuff. I think Kirk Herbstreit even said we should drop the TV show. We shouldn't do this anymore, and maybe he's making so much money that he doesn't care.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Yeah, anything. Yeah, he can just speak out against anything, but. I think it's obvious to everybody that TV show's a joke. They shouldn't be doing it, but they're probably just going to keep doing it because it gets ratings and generates a lot of discussion about college football. But I said even Greg going into it, the playoff, that Notre Dame was what power? You probably had Notre Dame power rated 2 or 3, right, in college.
Oh, absolutely, I did. I had my own poll every week on my show, and I kept putting Notre Dame in like the top 3.
So how the hell can Notre Dame not get in the field?
Exactly. Yeah. It's ridiculous. And again, they wanted to point to the first game of the season when Notre Dame played Miami in Miami.
Right.
We're back to that again.
With a freshman quarterback in the rain, lost by 3, right? Big deal. So,
yeah. Whatever. So that's what they do to us. That's the only thing, like you said, I'm right there with you, Matt, regarding in my favorite sports are college basketball and college football. I like college football. I used to always say a couple of years ago before the playoffs, and now I've kind of changed a little bit, but it's like I love college football. It's my favorite sport until the regular season ends. Once it's over, it's no longer my favorite sport because the whole politics of it just ruins everything. It was only 4 teams for a long time, and that was when it was really political. And even though it's more political now as well, with even with 12 teams, the fact is at least we now have a playoff system. That's and we've been following the sport for so long. It seems I can't even believe actually it's been about 20 years that I remember thinking about it. But that's how time flies. And yet you look back and you go, I really can't believe it took them this long to get to 12 teams. But at least we have 12 teams, and I guess it could be worse. And now they're talking about making additional college basketball tournament teams from 68 to whatever. When, as I mentioned, I think this is the worst season to have a debate on that because all these teams that basically just barely made it aren't even worthy of being in the NCAA tournament. You want to add teams to the tournament?
Oh, so you're right. You're right about that. But what matters more than anything is money.
Money. Yes.
Money's going to win out over every other sensible argument. Money is always going to win out over anything we say that makes too much sense. I would say if you're going to expand the tournament, do it with the first 4 games in Dayton. Maybe make it a first 8 sort of situation. And I agree with what you said earlier. This is the softest bubble I've ever seen in an NCAA tournament. The last teams to get in are not very good. The teams that didn't make it, nobody cares. But if you're going to expand it to 72 or 76, how about on a night like tonight, instead of having 2 games, how about 4 games? And you play 2 games in Dayton, 2 games in Las Vegas. And then on Wednesday, you play 2 games in Dayton, 2 games in Las Vegas. And do something like that where you expand the field to 72 or maybe even get it to 76. Go no higher than 76. But if you have to expand it, how about 4 games tonight and 4 games tomorrow in Dayton and Vegas? I think that would actually be a good idea.
Hey, I got a question for you. I love that idea. The teams that lose in these play-in games, could they get invited to the NIT?
Well, I mean, that would be up to the NIT's discretion if they wanted to do that, right? I guess.
Well, here, my point is this. The point is everybody wants to win a championship. These teams that are playing tonight and tomorrow, they know they can't win this damn thing. But if they got into the NIT and they got hot a couple times, they could make the Final Four, et cetera, where they have absolutely no chance in this situation here in the 68.
Oh, that would be fine with me if you did it that way. I mean, I think that'd be another way to improve the offseason or postseason. I believe. So I played high school basketball in Indiana, and it was 1-class basketball at that time. And the smallest schools in the state had to play against the biggest schools in the state. And if you won your sectional, you felt like you won a state championship if you were at a small school. I kind of compare that to the NCAA tournament here. These little schools are playing in the first 4 or, the double-digit seeds. If they win 1 game, that's a huge accomplishment for them. Obviously, they know they're not going to win the national title, but to them, winning 1 game is like winning a championship. So that's the way I look at it with those teams, right? The teams that win tonight are going to feel like they've
already won.
Yeah.
So it sounds like when you were playing high school ball. When was the when was the story of Hoosiers, the true story of Hoosiers going on? Was that pre or post? I don't want to outdate your age. So
no, that's okay. I'm over 50 now, but I actually, our high school basketball team got approached by the producers of the movie Hoosiers, and they needed players for the opposing teams. And they asked us if we wanted to play for some of the opposing teams. But the part of the deal was we had to shave our heads, right? Because it was going to be 1950s look. And there was only 2 guys on our team that said, yeah, they would do it. And they shaved their head and they were in the movie. I didn't do it.
Wow.
Of course, at the time, we had no idea that Hoosiers was going to turn out to be an iconic movie. Right? They said, hey, we're coming to make this movie about high school basketball. You got to shave your head. And they're like, nah, no thanks. If I had known the movie was going to be that big, I would have done it. Right.
Yeah, it was incredible. What an incredible success story on a low budget film. It's unbelievable.
Right.
All right. So anyway, this was great, Matt. We really appreciate you taking your time out. So what's going on over at VSiN? I'm assuming they're going to be a bunch of handicappers talking college basketball like crazy for the next few weeks.
No question. Like Jim was saying, this is my favorite week of the year. We did a 4-hour show last night, and it flew by. Right, we got so many games to talk about. It's just you love doing shows this time of year. So VSiN, for those who don't know, it's 24/7, and it's TV, radio, national TV radio network. It's kind of like the ESPN of sports betting without all the nonsense that you get on ESPN. And we are our website, vsin.com. You're going to get plenty of handicapping columns, picks. Everybody who's a guest, like Jim Feist was part of the Circa Friday Football Invitational. Everybody who's on the network as a guest gives out best bets. They're all logged on the websites. You can track everybody's plays, and I think it's a valuable resource for a lot of people. So, yeah, you can catch it on the local radio in Vegas or Sirius XM, or on the VSiN Watch app, or you can watch on YouTube TV. But this is like I say, a great time of year in March. We have round-the-clock programming on all these games. So, hey, it was great to be on with you guys today. I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. I know how busy you are. I have to say this, that Matt has really helped Albert Scalliot, myself, get the guests for our show at the restaurant, because we don't know all the people and Matt knows everybody. And VSiN, as far as VSiN's concerned, I read everything they have. I listen to most of the shows. I can't stay up 24 hours a day to listen to it, and they have this replay mode. You can go in back, listen to old shows and that have passed and you weren't able to listen to. So it's a great site, and I recommend highly you check it out.
And you guys will probably see each other before you know it back at Dom DeMarco's in August. I think that's when you're going to return.
Yes.
Well, I was going to say, we might have to go out there for lunch pretty soon, Jim. As soon as the madness is over, we're going to have to meet out there for lunch. I can't wait until August to go back to
It's my turn to buy you lunch.
Okay.
If your mom and dad come, we buy them lunch too. I love his mom and dad. They show up to the shows a lot.
All right. That's going to wrap it up. We'll see everybody tomorrow at 1:00 Eastern, 10 Pacific for the Playbook ATS podcast. We get to hear what Mark Lawrence has to say. Link in the description of this video for Mark's Playbook March Madness newsletter. He's got some really awesome information there, as always, that'll help you fill out your bracket and also make some money during the next couple of weeks. So that's going to do it. And, of course, we'll be back again next week for an all-new show. So, Jim, as always.
If you're in Las Vegas, make sure you go to 9785 West Charleston to Dom DeMarco's for the best Italian food in the town.
That's it. And that'll wrap it up. Thanks once again, Matt. Appreciate it. Best of luck during the tournament.
You bet.
You,
all right. We'll see everybody next